And from the corner, I see Nas walking towards Pac's people. I didn't bounce, I waited, but I definitely made my way to the exit.
I was right there.
Oh my God.
In this interview with Angie Martinez, Snoop dropped some truth bombs. He gave us a front row seat to Tupac's legendary encounter with Nas at the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards.
Tupac got the whole death row we riled up.
It's like witnessing history unfold before our very eyes. The tension, the drama, the showdown of the century. But wait, there's more.
I step away from him and Nas right here, boom.
Snoop opens up about the awkward position he found himself in, caught between showing love for his West Coast crew and keeping it cool with his East Coast homies. It's like trying to juggle flaming torches while walking on a tightrope. Talk about a balancing act. If you're ready for a blast from the past and a glimpse into the inner workings of hip-hop history, dive into this video. Snoop opens up about Nas and 2pac's face-off. When it comes to hip-hop's juiciest secrets, Angie Martinez is the queen of uncovering the untold. Her show, Untold Stories of Hip-Hop, kicked off with a bang, featuring none other than the legendary Snoop Dogg. And boy, did Snoop have some stories to spill. In this jaw-dropping segment, Snoop takes us back to the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards, where tensions between East Coast and West Coast rappers were at an all-time high. He reveals the intense encounter between Tupac Shakur and Nas, painting a vivid picture of the drama that unfolded that night. Let's look at this interview. Angie Martinez. Snoop Dogg talks about his friendship with Tupac Shakur, the East Coast-West Coast hip-hop feud, and what caused the end of his relationship with Tupac. Angie starts by mentioning a previous interview with Snoop that might have caused issues between Snoop and Tupac.
There was a lot of tension between East Coast and West Coast rappers. And then in the middle of all that, you and I have this big interview the day after the MTV Awards.
Yes, the day before the interview, Nas and Tupac. Did you see that?
Angie remembers a crucial time in her career during the intense rivalry between East Coast and West Coast hip-hop scenes. She had a significant interview with Tupac Shakur, but it only aired for 12 minutes of the 2-hour interview. She was afraid that airing more could worsen the feud.
I had just done this big Tupac interview, right? I only aired 12 minutes of the 2-hour interview because I was so afraid to fuel this situation even more.
So according to Angie, she went looking for Pac to clear things up with him.
I'm like walking through the MTV Awards party by myself because I'm desperate to see Tupac because I want to tell him, listen, I'm sorry I didn't air our whole interview.
Right.
Like, yo, are we good? Is it okay? And from the corner, I see Nas walking towards Pac's people.
Angie said she made her way towards the exit, and Snoop added that he was right there and then proceeded to share his point of view.
I didn't bounce, I waited, but I definitely made my way to the exit.
I was right there.
Oh my God.
Snoop Dogg said he arrived with his usual cool, but beneath the surface, he was acutely aware of the delicate situation he was navigating. He said the evening had been progressing with the usual mix of performances and award presentations when the moment arrived. Backstage, away from the glitz of the main event, Tupac and his entourage, which included Snoop Dogg, crossed paths with Nas. Snoop watched as the two titans approached each other. According to Snoop's vivid account, Tupac was the first to speak. He confronted Nas about the diss track he had released, which targeted several New York rappers, including Nas himself. However, Nas's response was not what anyone expected.
Nas like, what's up, Pac? Man, I love your music, I'm a fan. That's what Pac say. When if you a fan, I dissed you, Jay-Z, Biggie, he named off a gang of them. I dissed all you on the song. And if you a fan and you ain't got no beef, don't say nothing. And Nas said, I love you. I never dish you.
Instead of escalating the situation, Nas approached Tupac with a calm demeanor, brushing off the diss as nothing more than friendly competition. He extended his hand, and the two rappers dapped each other up, a gesture of respect amidst the brewing storm. This non-violent and composed reaction from Nas was perceived by Tupac as a sign of weakness, as if he had punked Nas at that moment. But Snoop Dogg saw it differently.
And then when he walked off, Pac said, yeah, I punked that. In my mind, I was like, nah. He let us slide.
From Snoop's perspective, Nas's response was not an act of submission, but rather a strategic move to de-escalate the situation. Nas, surrounded by his crew, was outnumbered by Tupac's entourage, which not only had more people, but was also, as Snoop alluded to, carrying more other things. Snoop interpreted Nas's actions as giving them a pass, recognizing the danger of the situation and choosing to take the higher road. The aftermath of this confrontation was complex. On one hand, it seemed like a momentary truce had been established. On the other hand, the underlying issues remained unresolved. Snoop Dogg's relationship with Tupac and Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, became strained. Snoop had expressed on-air support for the East Coast during an interview, a move that did not sit well with Tupac and Suge Knight. This interview, which Snoop referred to during his conversation with Angie Martinez, was a turning point, souring the once close-knit relationships within the Death Row family. Snoop's recollection of these events and untold stories of hip-hop provides a rare insider's look at the dynamics at play during one of the most volatile periods in hip-hop history. His narrative is one of a man caught between loyalty to his West Coast roots and his genuine affection for his East Coast counterparts. But Nas's recollection of the events painted a different picture, one where mutual respect and a desire for unity underpinned their interaction.
I heard Snoop told the story a few times, but he had it wrong a little bit.
Nas described the encounter as a moment of clarity amidst the chaos. He approached Tupac backstage, acknowledging his presence with a nod, to which Tupac responded in kind. It was a brief exchange, but one that hinted at a deeper understanding between the two. Nas sensed the tension, the unspoken words hanging in the air, a reflection of the broader conflict that had taken hold of the hip-hop community. The story took a turn when Nas's brother Jungle and members of the Outlaws, Tupac's entourage, exchanged heated words.
You know, he was in New York and there was a lot of tension flaring, right? I think he had got into it with Jungle, my brother, at the award show.
It was a standoff that could have escalated, but cooler heads prevailed. Nas and Tupac, surrounded by their respective crews, managed to have a conversation that would later be described by Nas as a great convo. They discussed the misunderstandings, the rumors, and the media's role in fanning the flames of their supposed rivalry. Nas revealed that Tupac had plans to quash the beef publicly in Las Vegas, a gesture that would never come to fruition due to the tragic events that unfolded. This is because around this time, Pac was shot in a drive-by shooting, an incident that would lead to his death 6 days later. Well, by now, I believe it is no secret that Pac and Snoop weren't on the best of terms before Pac's passing, and a lot has been said about that recently. Let's dive deep into it. Snoop's been catching hell lately. Suge Knight's podcast, Collect Call, has been making big news lately. In a recent episode, he dropped a major bombshell by suggesting that Snoop Dogg might have been involved in Tupac's murder. This shocked the hip-hop community because Snoop and Tupac were seen as close friends and collaborators. The conversation started with a question about Diddy's role in Tupac's death, but Suge quickly turned to Snoop Dogg. He said, "I really need to talk to Snoop about this. Tupac did a lot for him, putting him on All Eyes on Me and speaking highly of him. If these rumors are true, there's a lot to explain." Fans and people in the industry are shocked by these words. Snoop Dogg has always been thought of as a friend and partner of Tupac. Saying he might have had a hand in his close friend's murder is a huge surprise that has sparked a lot of questions. Now let's dive into the timeline of events leading up to Tupac's murder and see if there's any evidence to support or refute Suge Knight's claims against Snoop Dogg. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac went to a boxing match in Las Vegas with Suge Knight. After the fight, while they were stopped at a red light in a BMW, a white Cadillac pulled up and shot at them. Tupac was hit several times and died later. The investigation into Tupac's murder has been going on for years, with many theories and rumors. Recently, Suge Knight made accusations against Snoop Dogg, sparking new interest and raising questions about the relationships in the rap community. Is there any evidence backing up Suge Knight's claims against Snoop Dogg? Right now, there's no solid proof connecting Snoop Dogg to Tupac's murder. The investigation has been complicated, looking into many leads and suspects, but no clear answers have been discovered. It's important to be skeptical and think critically about these allegations. While Suge Knight's words are surprising, they're just his side of the story and need to be considered along with other evidence and testimonies. Snoop Dogg has yet to comment on Suge Knight's accusations. We'll have to wait and see how he responds and whether he can prove the claims wrong. In the mid-1990s, Death Row Records, run by the infamous Suge Knight, was the big name in rap. Snoop Dogg, known for his smooth style and chill vibe, was already becoming a star at the label. But things took a turn when Tupac, just out of prison, joined Death Row in 1995. Tupac's arrival at Death Row Records was huge. His big personality, talent, and bold lyrics captured fans worldwide. Suddenly, Snoop Dogg, who was a star at the label, had to share the spotlight with someone as powerful as Tupac. Napoleon of the Outlaws explains how Snoop felt about this. According to Napoleon, Snoop was a superstar at Death Row, but when Tupac joined, everything changed. Tupac was so magnetic that he became the center of attention. Snoop, used to being the top star, felt overshadowed. This led to some tension, as Snoop started to feel jealous of Tupac's presence.
I remember how he tried to make it seem like Snoop said, "I sat back and let Pac shine." That let you know right there, nah, bro, you ain't sit back. He just was coming and shining. and you just happen to just lay back.
Napoleon's thoughts shed light on the tension between Snoop Dogg and Tupac. Snoop wanted to stay on top, but Tupac's sudden fame got in the way. Why did Snoop show his jealousy so openly? Napoleon gives a reason. He said, "You have to understand the circumstances. Imagine being the biggest star on death row, and then Tupac comes along and takes all your shine. It's a blow to the ego, no doubt." And now, 25 years later, whenever Snoop does an interview, Tupac's name is always brought up. Maybe Snoop is trying to reclaim some of that shine for himself. It's a way to remind people that he was there too, that he had his own success. Napoleon's view gives us a good understanding of why Snoop acts the way he does. It can be hard for Snoop to always be reminded of Tupac's fame when he used to be the star. But what about their friendship? Were they truly friends, or was it all just an act? Snoop and Tupac were friends, but sometimes jealousy can make even strong friendships complicated. Napoleon also mentioned, "It's sad to see Snoop trying to diminish their bond in interviews. I believe it stems from his own insecurities and the need to reclaim his place in history." Snoop Dogg and Tupac had a fascinating relationship. They were not just on the same record label, but also worked together on music. Their famous song, "Two of America's Most Wanted," highlighted their great chemistry and talent. Snoop Dogg talked about their friendship on Big Boy's Untold Story. He shared how he felt about Tupac's song, "Hit 'Em Up," and the tension it created between them. Snoop also spoke about the events before Tupac's death and how it affected their bond. He said, "Man, I'd say a week before he died, we were best of friends. 2 days before he died, I don't think he liked me. We were in New York and it had happened. New York had shot at me and did all kinds of shit to me. Just the worst shit you could think of. And I forgave him. Then I went and did an interview and was asked how I felt about Puffy and Biggie. I was like, I like them because I want to do some music with them." Snoop Dogg's decision to collaborate with Biggie, Diddy, and other artists from New York created a conflict with Tupac. Tupac felt betrayed because Snoop working with people he considered enemies hurt him deeply. Snoop said, "That just rubbed cuz the wrong way, like, nah, them tried to kill me. Now shot at you, and you talking about you want to do a song with them?" Even when he played the video for me to hit him up, the song, I didn't like the song. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Wasn't the to me. Like, you buying more problems, you buying problems. Gangsters are everywhere. They make them everywhere. Snoop Dogg expressed his deep disappointment in Tupac's actions. Snoop didn't agree with the song's aggressive tone and lyric, fearing it would lead to more problems. Napoleon said that "Hit 'Em Up" was a game changer. It was a direct attack by Tupac against those he felt had wronged him. However, the song also deepened the rift between Snoop and Tupac. Snoop's dislike for the song was clear, adding to the jealousy and tension between them. The aftermath of "Hit 'Em Up" marked a turning point in the Snoop Dogg and Tupac story. The diss track not only solidified Tupac's reputation as a fearless and ruthless lyricist, but also strained their already fragile friendship. This tension continued until Pac was shot. When Snoop Dogg heard that Tupac had been shot and was in critical condition, he didn't hesitate. He knew he had to be there for his friend, collaborator, and brother. He said, "When we drive to Vegas to see Pac, we got to Suge's house first, so we haven't even seen Pac. We were just talking to Suge, and he had his head wrapped up, telling us what happened. He said, Pac's gonna be all right. He's gonna pull through. He got shot 9 times before. He's gonna be all right." Snoop Dogg and his friends went to the hospital, hopeful but anxious. However, what they saw there crushed their hopes. Snoop said, "We go to the hospital and see that it ain't all right. When I walked in, I could just feel like he wasn't even there, and I fainted." Snoop Dogg felt overwhelmed by the seriousness of the situation. Tupac was in the hospital fighting for his life, and it was a moment filled with sadness and disbelief. But Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, provided comfort and support to Snoop. She recognized the strong connection between Snoop and her son, and knew how important Snoop's strength was at that moment. She told Snoop, she was like, "My baby ain't never seen you weak. I don't want you to be weak in front of him. You go in the bathroom, fix yourself up, and you go back in there, and you talk to him, and you tell him how you feel." Snoop also said, "She knew there was a little tension, but she knew how much we loved each other. So she gave us a moment for me to say some things to him, as far as how much I love him, but I knew that that was going to be my last time speaking with him. I thanked him for everything he had done for me, for the music, for the culture. I told him that his legacy would live on, that his voice would continue to inspire generations to come." In their last moments together, Snoop Dogg and Tupac shared a deep, unspoken bond that didn't need words. Their connection was so strong that it transcended time and space, lasting even after Tupac passed away. Actor Faison Love, famous for movies like Friday and The Couple's Retreat, made a surprising claim on Instagram Live. He believes that Snoop Dogg could have prevented the events that led to Tupac's death.
"I always felt when Pac died, it was because Snoop could have stopped that whole thing. I mean, because like I said, Snoop was a Crip.
Love claims that Snoop's connection to the Crips, a notorious gang, might have given him the power to stop any harm planned against Tupac. He believes that the tension between Tupac and Snoop led to the shooting that killed Tupac. If Snoop could have stopped it, why didn't he? Was he loyal to his gang, or were there other reasons? Some people, including Suge Knight, have hinted that Snoop Dogg might be involved in Tupac's murder. I think that's unfair, especially considering Suge and Snoop's turbulent relationship. Suge is bitter about losing Death Row. In the early 90s, a skinny dude from Long Beach, California rocked up to the hip-hop party. His name, Calvin Broadus Jr., but you probably know him better as Snoop Dogg. With his smooth style and charm, he was like the cool kid who made everyone else look like they were trying too hard. Snoop's rise to fame started when he teamed up with Dr. Dre, the brain behind some of the sickest beats in hip-hop history. Together, they were about to shake up the entire music scene, West Coast style. Dr. Dre wasn't just looking for talent, he was crafting a sound, a vibe, a movement, and Snoop Dogg was the missing piece of that funky puzzle. With Dre's beats and Snoop's rhymes, they created magic that would define an era. Snoop didn't just rap, he painted pictures with words, taking listeners on a journey through the streets of Long Beach. His laid-back flow was like a smooth cruise down the highway, with Dre's beats bumping in the background. As Snoop Dogg's star rose, so did West Coast hip-hop. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of that Cali cool. Snoop wasn't just a rapper, he was a cultural icon, a symbol of a new wave in music. Their first collaboration, the track Deep Cover for the film of the same name, was a gritty, hard-hitting introduction of Snoop Dogg to the world. The song was a hit, and it set the stage for what was to come. The following year, in 1992, Dr. Dre released The Chronic, an album that would become a cornerstone of hip-hop. Snoop Dogg is featured prominently on this album, his verses standing out on tracks like Nothing But a G-Thang and Dre Day. The chemistry between the two artists was undeniable, and the success of The Chronic positioned Snoop Dogg as the next big thing in hip-hop. 1993 saw the release of Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, under Death Row Records. The album was a cultural phenomenon, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart and selling over 800,000 copies in the first week. With hits like Gin and Juice and Who Am I, Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style solidified his place in hip-hop history. It wasn't just the sales that made the album significant, it was the way Snoop's laid-back delivery perfectly captured the essence of the West Coast lifestyle. Snoop Dogg's relationship with Death Row Records was more than just a business arrangement. It was a partnership that defined an era. Death Row, co-founded by Dr. Dre, Suge Knight, the DOC, and Dick Griffey, was the label that everyone in the hip-hop world was talking about. With a roster that included names like Tupac Shakur and Dr. Dre, Death Row Records was at the forefront of the West Coast hip-hop movement. Snoop Dogg's second album, Thaw Dogfather, released in 1996, was another commercial success, although it faced the impossible task of following up Doggy Style. The album arrived at a difficult time for Death Row Records. Dr. Dre had left the label, and Tupac Shakur had been tragically killed. Despite these challenges, Thaw Dogfather showcased Snoop's resilience and his ability to carry the Death Row torch. The significance of Snoop Dogg's albums under Death Row Records cannot be overstated. They were not just collections of songs, they were cultural statements that resonated with a generation. Snoop's music painted vivid pictures of life on the streets of Long Beach, mixing tales of gangsta life with a funk-infused sound that became the hallmark of G-Funk. His storytelling was as smooth as his flow, and his ability to convey complex emotions in a few lines made him a standout artist. As the new millennium unfolded, Snoop Dogg's career continued to evolve. The once young and brash rapper from the streets of Long Beach had matured into a seasoned artist with business acumen. Snoop was no longer just a rapper. He was a mogul, a mentor, and a visionary in the music world. However, decades after leaving Death Row Records, Snoop has a problem: the ownership of his masters. Masters are the original recordings of an artist's music, and owning them is similar to holding the keys to one's musical legacy. For Snoop Dogg, the quest to regain control of his masters, particularly his album Doggy Style, became a personal crusade. It was a journey that would lead him back to the beginnings of his career, to Death Row Records. Just a simple one. Path to acquiring his masters was fraught with complications. At the time, the rights to Death Row's catalog were owned by E1, a multimedia company with a vast portfolio of entertainment properties. Snoop Dogg's attempts to negotiate with E1 were met with resistance and what he perceived as disrespect. The situation became even more convoluted when Hasbro, the toy and board game giant, acquired E1. The idea of Snoop Dogg's music being under the umbrella of a company known for family-friendly entertainment like Monopoly and My Little Pony was almost surreal. He even revealed how E1 tried to get him into a shady contract. According to Snoop, they said, "Come work for us for 12 years. You'll get your masters back in 15. It was a proposition that Snoop Dogg could not accept. He wanted his legacy in his hands now, not in the distant future. The breakthrough came when Death Row Records was sold to an investment group, opening a window of opportunity for Snoop Dogg. With his connections and influence, he reached out to the new owners, and after a series of negotiations, he made a power move that would change the game. Snoop Dogg didn't just want his masters, he wanted the entire Death Row catalog. The deal was closed, and Snoop Dogg became the proud owner of Death Row Records. But his plans went beyond mere ownership. In a move that stunned the industry, he pulled the label's entire catalog from traditional streaming services. This was not a decision made lightly. It was a strategic play to reposition Death Row Records for the future. Snoop Dogg's vision for Death Row was revolutionary. He partnered with Gala Games, a company operating in the burgeoning metaverse space, to create a Death Row app. His goal was to build a platform akin to Netflix, Amazon, or Hulu, where all of Death Row's content could be accessed. It was a bold step into the digital frontier, one that promised to redefine how music was consumed and monetized. But Snoop Dogg's motivations were not solely about business or technology. There was a deeper, more personal element to his decision. He wanted to ensure that the artists who contributed to Death Row's success but never got paid, names like Nate Dogg, Rage, RBX, Daz, and Corrupt, would finally receive their due. He also sought to honor the label's founder, Harry O, by giving him an executive position within the company. Now, whatever problem Suge has with Snoop may be rooted in this. He probably hasn't even come to terms with losing Death Row, not to talk of Snoop acquiring it. If you enjoyed this video, click on the card showing on your screen right now for more videos.